from a bell cow apartment or condo or house wherever you live to the Carolina backfield where Miles Sanders joins a crowded backfield.
Yes,
that was a much better segment.
Yes, that's how it's done right there. Miles Sanders hoping to be the workhorse in Carolina, probably a long shot.
I apologize to America.
He goes from the Eagles to Carolina, 4-year, $25 million. Good money for Miles Sanders.
Good years.
Yes. Denny, let's look at the role here for Miles Sanders. We know this is where a rookie quarterback will be starting for this team, assuming they're going to take number one overall. The offensive line, though, on the come up, some young players, an ascending offensive line. How do we project Miles Sanders in this backfield?
The Carolina offensive line was dominant for the second half of last season, and I think unless something changes in the next couple months, they should maintain some stability there. It puts Miles Sanders in a good spot to be an early down back, but there will be obviously a rotation, not like your marital situation. There will be, he will not be a workhorse in this backfield because you have Chuba Hubbard, you have maybe someone they're going to draft. Miles Sanders has no real usage as a pass catcher over the past couple of years. I think he had 23 targets all of last year in the Philadelphia offense. So I think he'll be a touchdown dependent RB2 at best. So if you can stomach that in the middle rounds, I guess you go for it. It's not all that inspiring, though.
I have two questions for you, Connor. Neither are about Kristen. So one, are we sure Andy Dalton isn't going to start? And then two, what do you think about now the trend is that, previously the trend was Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, the rookie sits for a couple of years, then plays, and now it's much more thrown to the wolves. And after, what you saw with Zach Wilson, with the Jets and everything, do you think that trend is right, or do you think there's a chance it's Dalton?
I think it's dependent on who they take, right? Anthony Richardson is a guy that wherever he goes, which is going to be in the top 5, he should be awarded the luxury of sitting because he needs to. He didn't play a lot in college. When you look at Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, on the other hand, they're going to be drafted to play because teams are trying to maximize those rookie quarterback contracts. So I think that's what it'll come down to. It'd be a big surprise if this team takes Anthony Richardson. Yep. So it's looking like and it's great to have Dalton there. It's great to have McCown as the quarterback's coach. Really, so much veteran leadership for that young guy, but I think who they take at number 1, Stroud or Bryce, will ultimately be the week 1 starter.
Okay.
Yeah, it also depends on sort of what kind of offense Frank Reich wants. Like last year, they were crazy heavy, right? They were 6th in total running back carries last year, top 10 in running back red zone carries. Like we were talking during the season, like, is it a Chuba Hubbard week and is it a Dante Foreman week? And turns out it was both. Yeah, right. They were both getting like 17 touches a game last year. So we'll see that now that Steve Wilkes is out as interim head coach and now Frank Reich is in, different offensive system. We expect them to, especially if they draft a quarterback number 1, that they're going to be at least balanced, if not more pass heavy, especially because we still don't think the defense will be as good. I think it will. I think losing Wilkes is a loss for the Panthers on that side of the ball. Here's the other thing about Miles Sanders, right? And I wrote about this in my Combine column that is available on rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com. I'm a company man. And you'll see, like, a lot of the stuff that I wrote, a lot of the gossip I heard in bars so far has come true. And one of the points was, hey, Miles Sanders is going to move on, that we expect Miles Sanders to move on, that ended up happening. And that the talk that I heard from my sources in Philadelphia were one of the reasons why he was part of a committee in Philadelphia is he has trouble staying healthy. They don't trust him on third down. They don't like him in a pass-catching role, as Denny alluded to. And, oh, by the way, fumbling is an issue. Yeah. And so you think about Deuce Staley being there as a running backs coach who, wherever he's been in the NFL as a coach, he's also employed a multiple running back coach. Frank Reich he had Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, but he's still certainly, Nyheim Hines got more touches than any of us wanted him to. Right. I think the expectation, I feel like Miles Sanders, to your point about being super touchdown dependent, on an offense that, even though it's a good offensive line, I don't think it's not going to be nearly as efficient scoring-wise as the Eagles. And even though they may be run heavy, and I think the jury's still out on whether they will be or not, I don't know that he gets all those carries. I agree. I think they get either a veteran or they draft a day 3 guy.
Yes. It'll be his workload will be eaten from both sides. No pass catching role probably. Maybe he has to split the early down stuff. So where does that leave him? It leaves him a lot of empty carries. Like I said, he's going to have to score a lot of touchdowns to get there for fantasy.
And he has traditionally not been a touchdown scorer. He obviously last year he was, but
before that,
in previous seasons he just hasn't been. And so anyway, it'll be like the 4th year in a row that I'm out on Miles Sanders.
Yeah. I think with Frank Reich as well, he showed that I think deep down in Frank Reich's soul, like he wants to pass the ball. And I think the Jonathan Taylor 2021 explosion, that was more an aversion to Carson Wentz than anything else, because Wentz, they just did not trust him at all. And when Wentz was playing well, they would throw it aggressively. I think back to the Tampa Bay game that year where they went against Tampa's #1 run defense, and they threw it like 20 times in a row. And it's like, this is what Frank Reich wants to do, whereas like Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball. So obviously that's going to be difficult with a rookie quarterback, but at the same time, I do think that he will want to pass.
Former NFL quarterback, obviously wants to throw. They're going to have a young guy that they're going to want to develop. Like C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young don't get better by handing off. Like they need that. It's a development year for whoever they pick, and so that guy needs to throw. With the exception of Justin Fields, who was in that disastrous Matt Nagy situation, generally speaking, you let your rookie quarterback throw and learn from his mistakes.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence did it year 1, and they reaped the rewards. Different staff, but year 2, we saw a much improved Trevor Lawrence. So, speaking of the fear of committee, guys, this is an interesting one. Lions signed David Montgomery. We knew they were going to lose Jamaal Williams in free agency. Montgomery gets a 3-year, $18 million deal. $11 million is guaranteed. So this is a really nice deal for David Montgomery. Barry, here's my question for you. It feels like now this is yet another summer we're going to enter DeAndre Swift not being one of the guys, as Montgomery is clearly going to significantly eat into his workload.
Dave Montgomery drives me crazy. And
just want him gone.
I do, and that's not going to happen.
No.
We want to free Khalil Herbert, and now it's going to be free DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, David Montgomery is going to be underdrafted and be really productive.
Yes.
This year, and he drives me crazy. Again, like I am not a David Montgomery fan. I'm not a David Montgomery guy. But the fact of the matter is that the Lions have one of the better offensive lines in football. They're going to have one of the better offenses in football, and they do not want DeAndre Swift, because of his health issues, touching the ball more than 10 times a game. He's going to get 8 to 10 high leverage touches, DeAndre Swift, and we'll talk about him as we get closer to the season. But you think about Jamaal Williams, who led the NFL with 17 rushing touchdowns. I don't know that Dave Montgomery gets 17 rushing touchdowns, but double-digit rushing touchdowns are very much within the range of outcomes for Montgomery here. He's been a bit of a workhorse here. He's not a bad pass catcher as well. You can use him on all 3 downs. I thought it is a good signing for Detroit. It's an annoying signing for us in fantasy, but this was a good signing, and he's going to be more useful than any of us want him to be.
To me, David Montgomery is like I-95. He's a necessity that you don't really look forward to, but it ultimately kind of gets you where you need to go.
Gets used every day, but you just don't know if it's going to be good or bad.
Exactly.
He is going to be one of those guys in drafts where, when you draft Dave Montgomery, you're with your buddies, you're at a bar like this, and you're like, Dave Montgomery. Literally no one's going to go, ooh,
no.
Okay,
fine.
I wanted him. No one's going to do that.
Great
right?
take in the chat.
When you take Bijan Robinson, that's what's going to happen. You'll get man, sleeper, I wanted him. No one's going to say that. Everyone's going to be like, okay, Dave Montgomery. Find him on your list, mark him out. That's what's going to happen. But you know what? You're going to look up, and he's going to have 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns.
He's always among the least efficient running backs in the league by almost every metric, but he's a coach's guy. Coaches love this guy. He's a team leader. He's a rah-rah guy, and he has Dan Campbell, the ultimate rah-rah guy, as his head coach. I think they mesh really well, and it doesn't matter if he's not good. He's going to see a lot of touches.
That's my point.
And so people say, he's not good. They're going to have to give the ball to DeAndre Swift. No, they don't. They've proven that time and again. Yeah. They won't do it.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre, we all like Jamaal Williams. We're going to talk about his signing coming next. We all like Jamaal, but DeAndre Swift on a skill level is one of the best running backs in the NFL. He is just a special dude. And Jamaal Williams, as much as we all like Jamaal Williams is not a special dude when it comes to a running back. And yet, time in and time again, to Denny's point, they went to Jamaal Williams last year.
Jamal Williams had 46 carries inside the 10-yard line last year. He led all running backs by 16. The next closest is Joe Mixon, 16 fewer. So if Montgomery gets at least 80% of that, that's an enormous fantasy workload.
Especially, by the way, on a team that we expect their defense to be better.
Yeah.
We don't expect them to be down and chucking it a lot. We think they're going to be more competitive in games, which means they're going to probably be running the ball a little bit more in the second half than they were previously.
Plus 135 to win the division.
I was going to ask you, the Lions are
heavy favorites.
Really positioned nicely in this division now.
Bears.
As we talk about, the Bears are the better bet in terms of the odds.
Yeah, David went to the wrong team.
You've been in Chicago too much lately.
I do like Chicago.
It's starting to infect your brain. Denny, you brought up Jamaal Williams and his red zone usage last year, and he goes to the Saints on a 3-year, $12 million contract. Here's the situation with the Saints. We know Kamara could be dealing with suspension this year. He's dealt with injuries. But for Jamaal Williams, it's kind of hard to find a new ceiling considering the situation he was in with the Lions. So what is this for him and the Saints? How do you project him with the Saints?
First of all, I think it's good for Kamara whenever he plays because Kamara can get back to that in-space pass-catching role that he was so good at for years in New Orleans before they, for some reason, made him a between-the-tackles runner and kind of, it ruined his fantasy appeal.
Yeah.
That's just not his game. So hopefully Kamara can get back to that role. I will say Jamaal Williams will probably be overdrafted for my taste because people remember last year, remember the 17 touchdowns, remember, like I said, all those carries inside the 5, inside the 10. That's not going to happen again here. But if Kamara is suspended for, I don't know, a month or more, then Williams probably will look pretty good at ADP if you are fading running backs early and looking, to sort of cobble together running backs
late. To me, that's the pro Jamaal Williams argument, right? Is that you might get 6 weeks of RB1 production for a guy that's going to and we don't know when those 6 weeks will come, right? I mean, it might be the first 6 weeks of the season, by the way, but it might be the fantasy playoffs. Again, we just have no idea. I think the prevailing wisdom is that Kamara is likely facing a suspension. Again, they want to wait for the legal process to play out. The NFL has, but the footage that's been released of that incident, and listen, I'm no lawyer, obviously. I'm not even an analyst, but who knows what I am. But the fact is,
it's not good.
It doesn't look good.
No,
15
it does not. It does not look good. And so, at a minimum, I think the floor for Jamaal Williams is Mark Ingram's role in this offense, right? They don't want Alvin Kamara to be the between the tackles guy. So, could he be a squint and you can sort of see it usable flex in weeks in which Kamara is active, and you're hoping a touchdown dependent flex.
Sure.
But there's the potential for 6 weeks, at least 6 weeks, because Kamara's obviously dealt with injuries over the last couple of years as well. There's the potential for 6 weeks of RB1 production. I will say this: I think Jamaal Williams goes somewhere he should be the first of the high upside backups. He should be, he should go before, last year where Alexander Mattison or Tony Pollard went. He should go before that range, if you will, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that if you ask most football fans, where do the Saints rank in the league? Most people say they're the 16th, 17th best type of team. They're also plus 125 and the favorite to win that awful division. Yeah. So they're going to be in positions where they're going to have more advantageous situations than you might otherwise think, just because they've got 6 games against the Falcons, the Baker Mayfield, Bucs, and the Panthers.
Why does poor Baker Mayfield let me tune into Peacock? Let me see what's going on over here.
Stray
and
bullet.
then just a stray. Why isn't the C.J. Stroud Panthers? Why isn't the Desmond Ridder Falcons? Why do I, Baker Mayfield, who's actually won a playoff game, why am I catching strays?
Just differentiating from your good friend Tom Brady and the Tom Brady Bucks, which are now no longer.
He's no Brady.
A new era.
My BFF.
He said he's no Brady. He said I'm not Tom, and I'm glad he said that because last year, by most measurements, he was the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Wow. By most measurements, but not all measurements.
Not all measurements.
Stay through the break, Baker. It get a lot better for you. Another one here.
Anyway, but by the way, one quick question for my friends at Peacock that are watching this. Why does Jamaal Williams not have a reality show yet? That's what I'm asking.
Come on,
hey, Peacock. Let's make this happen.
Let's do this.
Give me
unbelievable.
Jamal Williams.
The most entertaining presser in the NFL.
I was just going to say MVPC.
Him and
most valuable press
Jair
conference.
Alexander as well. Maybe
those two.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's hard to live there in the same locker room.
Peacock. Look, I'm doing your job for you. Do a reality show with Alexander and Jamaal Williams.
All right, the Eagles signed Rashad Penny, a 1-year, $1.35 million contract, obviously due to the injury history that Penny has dealt with. But, Barry, he's one of those guys that he can go off for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on any given week. You just never know where it's going to be. But he does, obviously fall into a backfield that could be adding somebody in the draft. They like Kenny Gainwell. There are some different variables here.
I actually think my sort of feeling is that if I'm doing best ball drafts right now, no one's paying attention to Rashad Penny. I believe by the time we get to August, he'll become such a trendy sleeper that he will be overhyped a little bit. But sky's the limit for Rashad Penny. Really efficient offense, great offensive line, tremendous skill set. And this is a guy who, not last year but the year before, won people their fantasy leagues. The fantasy playoffs 2 seasons ago, he was a top 3 fantasy running back. He might have been the number 1 running back in fantasy, was he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and so like he was just phenomenal. He's got a home run. He's got this home run ability. He's great out of the out of the backfield as a pass catcher as well. And so, look, Kenny Gainwell's a nice player, but like he's not the every down guy. And so I think it just depends if they get through the draft and they don't add like a star running back, and it's just I could see a scenario where they go into the season with Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, and Rashad Penny. And in that scenario, like, I'm all in on Penny. Yes, health is the issue. Health is the concern with him, but he's on a 1-year prove-it deal once again. He was good in Seattle last year before he got hurt. I mean, like, we all see how good Ken Walker was, and he was able to hold off Ken Walker until he got hurt. So at current cost, I'm all in on Rashad Penny.
You go all the way back to 2019, and you look at Penny's healthy stretches, which are few and far between, I understand, and that's part of the reason I think his ADP will be so suppressed this summer. Even if he gets some sleeper hype, I think that it'll still be a reasonable price point. But yeah, Rashad Penny, every time he's healthy, is among the most efficient running backs in the NFL. Again, last year, 2021, obviously was like a special 6-week run that we might not see again for a while. I mean, I looking at the numbers, you could say that when healthy, I know it doesn't happen often, Rashad Penny is the best running back in the NFL.
He is the anti-David
pound for
Montgomery.
pound. He is, absolutely. Yeah. But that injury history, people will be freaked out by that, and I'm okay with that. I think I can deal with it.
I think, especially at ADP, he's very much worth a flyer. Like he could have a huge year.
Yeah, and also he had that stretch in 2021 where he was outplaying Jonathan Taylor down the stretch. He was having a historic season, and he's doing that behind a pretty bad offensive line in Seattle. And now he gets the best offensive line in football. Like, he's going to be someone who, like, we don't have markets on this up, but he's going to be like 150 to 1 to win the rushing title. Like, that kind of ridiculous because everyone just thinks, oh, Rashad Penny's on a 1-year, $1.35 million deal. He gets hurt all the time. Like, guys can just stay healthy for 1 year, and then all of a sudden, like, he could absolutely rush for 1,700 yards if he stays healthy.
Especially in a new home where they might understand his usage or how to time his usage a little bit better for an offense that is going to score a ton of points again.
It's going to score a ton of points. They have enough backs there that they can mix and match, and you've obviously got Jalen Hurts in the backfield as well, so defenses are going to have to account for that in a way that they didn't have to in Seattle with him. And so maybe that opens up some rushing lanes as well. Like, we've often seen that running backs that play with very mobile quarterbacks often are more efficient as well, just because, again, you usually have to keep a linebacker spy on that quarterback, and so that opens up a lot of lanes when you have a creative play caller, which hopefully the Eagles will.
That's
this
a good
year.
point. Yeah.
Another notable signing here, guys. The Texans signed Motor Singletary, a 1-year, $3.75 million contract as he moves on from the Bills. I think, honestly, Denny, everybody's question immediately pivots to, will Dameon Pierce no longer be that workhorse guy in Houston?
I think we kind of got the rug pulled out from under us on Dameon Pierce on this signing. I've been doing some best ball drafts. I've liked Dameon Pierce's ADP, not as much now because Devin Singletary was never used as a pass catcher in Buffalo, meaning that if they're going to use him at all, and I'm guessing they are, it's going to be on early downs, and that's going to really eat into Dameon Pierce's usage. Now, maybe Pierce is used more as a pass catcher. He wasn't bad in that role last year, but he was only seeing about 3.1 targets per game as a rookie. So I think that his paths to fantasy upside have been very much narrowed by this Singletary signing, unfortunately.
I'm not as worried about it as you are. Yeah. I mean, I think they really like Pierce. I mean, again, I'm a big follow the money guy. 1 year, $3.75 million. That's a depth signing.
It's not much.
And I've seen that's where it maxes out. A lot of these contracts,
right? Incentives and everything like that.
Especially running backs.
The fact that Singletary couldn't do better than that, to me, Devin Singletary is just a better version of Rex Burkhead last year. That's what he is. Like, I mean, they use Rex Burkhead here and there, to spell him and everything like that. And I think Singletary's more of a veteran, and so they're gonna have a young quarterback. They're going to want to have somebody who's good in pass pro, who's a good pass catcher, so that, like, when that quarterback gets in trouble, has somebody to dump off to. So I think you could see Singletary there. But am I worried about when they get on the 5-yard line, suddenly here comes Devin Singletary? Like, I'm not. Like,
Probably not.
I hear you that it maybe caps the ceiling on Pierce a little bit, but what did we think this – if this signing didn't happen, what did we think, like, Pierce's – I thought Pierce's floor was – or his ceiling was, like, running back 10.
So yeah. I think he could still get there if they limit Singletary's usage. But Singletary, like, some of his peripheral stats show a guy who can be efficient as a rusher. Again, as a pass catcher, just horrible. One of the worst pass catchers. It doesn't make much sense either. It seems like he would excel in that role. But But so I do worry a little bit about what it does for Pierce, but I'm not completely fading Pierce after the Singletary.
I think Pierce is a fine RB2, and maybe he doesn't have as much upside, but I also don't think the floor. I still think there's a very solid floor, especially given that they're going to have a rookie quarterback that they're going to want to,
establish.
They're going to want to establish it.
I think as well that Pierce, it's probably went a little bit under the radar, but he was used in the passing game more than you expect, because the first 3 games there's no passing game usage.
Yep.
But he ended up with 30 receptions, 39 targets in 13 games. He had, I think, 4 games where he had at least 5 targets, so he definitely does have that element.
Yeah, he's an elite pass protector too, so they'll keep him on the field, and it helps. The Texans traded for Shaq Mason. They extended Laramie Tunsil. Like, this offensive line is actually in a good place for a team that is also going to probably be playing a rookie quarterback. Guys, here's the other.
I'll just go back. I think Singletary is a bigger name than threat. I think he was a depth signing. Honestly, I do. And that's what the money suggests to me as well.
A couple more of those exact signings, and you guys can pick out which one stands to you. Alexander Madison goes back to the Vikings on a 2-year, $6.4 million deal. We'll see what that means ultimately for Cook. Deontay Foreman signs a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Bears as David Montgomery's out. Deontay Foreman's in. Damian Harris signs a 1-year deal with the Bills. That one's kind of interesting. Raheem Mostert is back with the Dolphins on a 2-year deal. Jeff Wilson is back with the Dolphins on a 2-year deal. James Robinson signs a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Patriots after being phased out of the Jets offense at the end of last year. And then Samaje Perine signs a 2-year, $7.5 million deal with the Broncos. Jay, looking at these, are any of these more noteworthy to you than the rest?
I think it's interesting with the Dolphins just because I like that team a lot overall, and I think they have huge upside. I think they can absolutely win the division. That team is absolutely stacked now with the additions they made on defense, most notably Jalen Ramsey, and then on offense. Like, the Dolphins were really banged up last year. Teron Armstead was dealing with injuries the whole second half of the season. Tyreek Hill had the niggle with his ankle, and then Tua, obviously. Like, they could be a juggernaut, and if they're a juggernaut, it means that they're going to be running the ball, and obviously you got Mostert and Wilson both back, but I think that they can both be usable, and then if one goes down, which probably will happen at some point during the year, then all of a sudden you've got a guy who could be a borderline RB1.
I agree. I mean, I think at least we know sort of what to expect with Miami, and I think it's going to be tough to rank one guy over the other each week, but I think both guys, to your point, are usable low-end RB2, high-end flexes on a week-to-week. To me, you mentioned it, to me the most interesting one here is Damian Harris. I think Damian Harris is a good player.
He is a good player.
Not being as good as or as versatile as Ramondre Stevenson is not a negative. Like, there's a lot of running backs in the NFL that are good running backs. They just aren't as good as Ramondre Stevenson. And so, that it does two things. Number one is I think Damian Harris could actually have more fantasy value in Buffalo than he did in New England, more explosive offense, and somebody that has sort of a very clear role. Like, I'm going to be a pounder. And as they want to continue to extend Josh Allen's career, like, maybe Allen's still going to always tuck in and run at some point, but like as they get in close, you could see him being kind of a hammer at the goal line here. It also caps, when Singletary, we're like, ooh, James Cook season, and now we're like, Like, to me, I'm more disappointed about James Cook than I am about Dameon Pierce with the Devin Singletary thing.
It's the same thing with Khalil Herbert in Chicago.
Right.
Like, I was really amped about Herbert, finally maybe getting something like a workhorse role because he's been so good when he's been the lead back, way better than David Montgomery. I think we've established that is possible for any running back in that offense.
Right.
But yeah, so Deontay Foreman has been good, and there's no two ways about it. He's very interesting to me as a late round flyer who could just end up as the lead back, maybe if Herbert struggles with injuries again, maybe if they just see Foreman as more of a lead back. The size factor, Herbert is not nearly as large as Foreman, and that offense, that Chicago offense, the run heaviest offense in the NFL last year, outside of Atlanta, of course, and so Foreman could have kind of hidden volume based upside there.
I think all of these signings, or a lot of them, they just go to show that it's just the demise of the workhorse running back. Like, a lot of these situations, like, maybe James Cook could have become the guy. Maybe Mostert if it was just him. But all of, who's left? It's really just like Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon. Is there anyone else?
CMC.
There's even CMC's like Dylan.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
I mean, Eckler a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not much.
He's not your prototypical workhorse back, but he gets that kind of usage, or at least did.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it gets mixed in to an extent. But yeah, the list gets shorter and shorter as we continue on.
The top remaining free agents on the running back market: Ezekiel Elliott, who finishes RB22. He's out there after moving on. The Cowboys move on from him. Leonard Fournette, with the top 15 finish. He's out there. And then Kareem Hunt would be interesting to see if he lands with the place with upside. Is there any spots here, Barry, that you'd like to see one of these guys go, or anybody at least that you think has more left in the tank than the general public kind of perceives?
Yeah, I mean, I like all of them. I mean, I'll tell you that, when I was hanging with my best friend Tom Brady, I hanging out this weekend, just palling around with a couple of our buddies. Leonard Fournette was there as well.
Yes.
And I literally point blank asked him, like, where are you going? And he goes, honestly, I don't know. He goes, I have no idea. I would think that, I actually think in the right situation, all three of those guys could be useful. To me, I feel like, because we've seen Fournette be productive last year, obviously, so Fournette, but to me the interesting one is Kareem Hunt. And just that, like, he hasn't, like, this is a guy that won a rushing title as a rookie and then just hasn't been used that much, and it feels like that explosiveness is still there. He was behind Nick Chubb, who might be the best running back in the NFL from a pure skill standpoint, and they had quarterback issues and just wasn't a particularly good team. So I feel like in the right system, we talked about this, and it's weird because they went and got Pirine, but like if Javonte Williams is more hurt than we think, which I think is a very real possibility, and Kareem Hunt went to Denver, that becomes really interesting. Or if Kamara gets suspended for a year or for much of a year and Kareem Hunt goes to New Orleans, that becomes really interesting, right? I just think in Kareem Hunt in the right situation becomes really interesting.
Yeah. I like Kareem Hunt. I will say
as a football player,
as a player, yes,
as a fantasy football player.
Yes,
so we have to be clear about that.
Not sure about other aspects, but yeah, he is a guy who was efficient coming into last year, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. I do worry a little bit about last season and his kind of the peripheral stats showing that he may be edging toward the latter half of his career, and I don't know if he profiles as a guy who's going to see who can even see 15 to 18 touches in a game.
The counter to that, and you might be right, by the way, you absolutely might be right. You just never know with running backs. The only counter to that is it felt like it was just there was already bad blood in Cleveland. Yeah. Like he wanted to get out last year, and so it just may have been one of those things, one of those mental things where, and he's not getting the playing time that he wants, and it just, just mentally, he may not have been there. He may have checked out on the team, and so, listen, you're a professional, you're still being paid a lot of money, you have to do it, but.
He definitely wasn't happy. That's for sure.
There are other things that you could excuse away. It still may be right. The skills may be diminishing, but it also may be one of those things that, like in a new situation with a team where he feels appreciated and he has a role that's more suited to his skill set, maybe he's got another year left.
Ironically, I think he could go on the path that another guy on that screen went down in Leonard Fournette, where it looked like Leonard Fournette was just done. In Jacksonville, he's like a 3.8 yards per carry kind of guy, and then all of a sudden, Super Bowl winning Lenny. So I think all these guys, like any running back, the situation you want to end up in right now is Philadelphia, because Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, they are not so super entrenched. And then Rashad Penny, despite the upside, the most likely thing is that he gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, you could have anyone slide in to be a number one running back behind the best offensive line in football.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, right? I wouldn't be surprised by any of those guys winding up in Dallas, right? We don't know what Dallas is doing behind Tony Pollard. Like, I don't know if they want to go in with just Tony Pollard.
Feels like Leonard Fournette to Dallas.
Yeah, it does.
That's like a thing.
They might draft
right?
Bijan.
Yeah.
And they might, right.
That's very real right
rumor,
now.
Right.
So.
They might draft Bijan, I know they like Keontae Ingram a little bit, but any one of those guys in Arizona paired with James Conner could be kind of interesting. You can sort of see that too.
How about the Bengals right now with the unclear future of Joe Mixon, and we saw Pete Ryan obviously go to the market. That's kind of a sneaky one that I think a lot of people aren't onto yet.
For Hunt, maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for Kareem. That's a good spot
Kareem
for
Hunt landing
Hunt.
spot.
Yeah,
pass catching.
maybe
role.
Fournette as well.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.